Oh, hey there. Today's recipe is for a Cambodian pickled daikon and carrot relish, or accompaniment to your main dishes. It's called Jruak in their native language, and it's pretty good. So, let's try it out. I'm Chase W. Beck. I have a PhD in anthropology. Join me as we learn about the different ways food and culture intersect on Dr. Beck's Epicurean Delights. I'm getting ready to make pickled carrots and daikon. I got my regular, trusty mandolin slicer here. I know there's probably better models of mandolin slicers. I'm not ready to buy a new one yet. However, I know that there are different ways to process these vegetables right there so that you can get long strands. And a lot of people say, like, why don't I just use a mixer with a shredding attachment, or a food processor with the same attachment, or even a box grater? Well, the problem is that each of these do not produce the end result that I'm looking for. I want long strands with a minimum of cell damage. So for instance, if I were to take this and run it through the box grater, look what I'm getting here. I'm getting practically nothing. This would be great if I was trying to make hash browns, you know, or even I've done some recipes where I want to do onions and I want the onions to sort of like fall apart when they cook. So that would work great for that. But that's not what we want here today. Similarly, with the, let me just get the food processor out here and ready so I can give you another demonstration of how the food processor is also not necessarily suited to this. Now the food processor is going to do some, the food processor is going to do some great grinding for me. But let me make sure it's going to fit. All right, this is going to fit. Maybe I should save just a little bit, just in case I need more for another demonstration. I don't need to make that much here today. So we're going to put this guy in here. We're going to get this going on high. It's going to be loud. Anyway, you will see that while we're going to get pretty good sized strands and the cell damage is going to be minimal, I just don't have the kind of control that I get over when using the mandolin slicer. So let me demonstrate. Here we go. Wash the fingers and put it through and off. Let's see what we got here. So I get a big chunk that just didn't go through, which is fine. You know, you don't have to capture everything. And I guess this is okay. You know, sizes and strands like this would actually work pretty well. I just feel like I get something a little bit better quality in the mandolin slicer. And so this is great if you don't have time and you don't want to waste all your time hand shredding this stuff. Let me get one more here. If I'm going through all the trouble of making pickled carrots and daikon, I'm going to do it right. So I picked myself up a spiralizer, and I've used this on several occasions. I definitely use it to make my own zucchini noodles. It needs to be sort of round. I'm gonna grab this one right here. Stick it on there like this. Everybody can see what's going on. And then you move this down. 1, 2, 6. So you're gonna get these long curly strands, which are great for potatoes. It's great for zucchini noodles. But this isn't really something that screams pickled carrots and daikon to me. I could break these up myself, I suppose, after I've done it, but then what's the point in using it? You're going to want to retain these long slices for something like zucchini noodles. So that's great for that. But I'll show you exactly why. And there's very, very little cell damage here. You get nice long strands, but I will show you exactly why I prefer the mandolin slicer for this. Here we go. I don't know, I've been bit by this guy one too many times. To really trust him, so being careful. Probably be better if I had a fresher daikon to do this. Anyway, So minimal cell damage, and you get long strands similar to what you get from the food processor, but there's even less cell damage done here. And so they're still going to be crispy, and you want to retain that crispiness because it's going to be pickled, and so you're going to lose a lot of the crispiness in the pickling process, or I guess it's sort of like in a brine, but not really fermented. Anyway, you want to retain as much of that crispiness as you can. You'll see when I'm actually doing the recipe that it works much better than this demonstration here, I hope. All right, so that's why I use the mandolin slicer and not all the other gadgets I have in my kitchen. All these gadgets have a purpose, but the product that we want here today is best obtained using the mandolin slicer. So that's what I'm going to use. Today we're making a Cambodian pickled vegetable recipe called Jruak, which is basically carrots and daikons in a pickling sauce or a pickling liquid. So in order to make that, you need a daikon and carrots. I like to do about 50-50, so I'm trying to get the same amount of carrots as daikon. You can also use some ginger in this recipe, cucumber, and hot peppers, but I like to keep it simple and just use carrots and daikon, although I might be throwing in a couple of Serrano peppers today. I don't have those bird's eye peppers that I love. And then the pickling liquid is rice, vinegar, some salt, and a little bit of sugar. That's all you need. Let's get started. All right, so first things first, we need to make the liquid. I usually like to heat the liquid just so that I can get all of the sugar and salt dissolved. So I'm throwing in a tablespoon of salt, 5 tablespoons of sugar, 1, 2, 3, why am I narrating this? And 5. And then a cup of rice vinegar. You know, in researching this, I found out that rice wine vinegar and rice vinegar are the exact same thing. So go figure. You no longer have to continue searching for rice vinegar in this dish. You can use rice wine vinegar and it should be equivalent. So get out there and do it. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to get this on the heat until the sugar and the salt dissolves, and then we'll have our liquid for pickling. And while this is heating up, I will then shred the vegetables. And a lot of people will just put this into a sort of a reused storage jar with a sealing lid. I like to use these sealing pickling jars. They're very nice. So I've got to peel these vegetables and then before I can grate them up. So I'm going to do a little bit of peeling throughout the entire vegetable rather than concentrate it down into a small little guy. Let me tackle this guy. I'm probably going to have to cut this as well before I can get him on the mandolin slicer. Try that. But if you have a nice, firm vegetable, not so bad. I like how fast this mandolin slicer works, how quickly it does the job there. Just getting everything all grated up for me. And like I said, I've seen recipes like this that use cucumber and ginger, but my favorite one is the simplest one. That's just carrots and daikon. Not to say that the ginger one and the cucumber one aren't tasty. It's just they seem less versatile, in my opinion. Well, I commence with the grating of these vegetables. It might be the perfect time for a Botany Minute. Daikon is a close relative of radish and therefore is in the Brassicaceae family, along with other cruciferae like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. Daikon is its Japanese name and translates to big root. However, daikon did not originate in Japan. It was introduced there approximately 2,000 years ago by the Chinese. Gosh, it sure looks like I'm still grating vegetables, so while we wait for me to finish, how about we have a quick science corner? According to Okamoto et al., who wrote in 2019, daikon contains a bioactive constituent known as 4-methylthio-3-butenyl isothiocyanate, called MTBI for short. While daikon is already known to aid in digestion, help fight cancer, and prevent throat irritation, there is evidence that this pungent isothiocyanate, MTBI, can also act as an anti-obesity agent when paired with alpha-cyclodextrin. At least, it has been demonstrated to behave in such a way when used on laboratory mice, particularly when the mice were fed a high-fat diet. So, Okamoto et al. Concluded that MTBI, coupled with alpha-cyclodextrin, was effective in the prevention of diet-induced obesity. While this is pretty cool, what it does not prove is that eating daikon will help you lose weight. But hey, it might have some effect, particularly if one were to replace their donuts with daikon. How are we doing here? So it looks like I have the carrots and daikon all mixed up, and I'm just going to add a couple of serrano peppers here. If you don't like peppers or you don't like the spiciness, you can leave them out entirely. It won't hurt the dish. If you want to try to manage that heat a little bit, you can also cut out the seeds and veins of the peppers and leave that out. If you still want the flavor but try to limit some of the heat, you can do that as well. So with the peppers all cut up and everything mixed well, it's time to start shoving it into my little container here so that I can add the pickling liquid. If I've gone too fast through these things, don't worry. You can always check the description of the show notes down below, and you'll be able to find the entire recipe there. And also, while you're doing that, you can take the time to subscribe to my channel and also leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. I would greatly appreciate it. Once your pickling liquid is cool enough, you can fill up your jar with your pickled carrots and daikon and then pour in the pickling liquid on top. Now you just have to sit and wait for the pickling to occur, and then about 7 hours later, you have your pickled carrots and daikon, or your Jruak. I like to drain it a little bit on a paper towel before I go ahead and add it to any sandwiches like this. One of the places you might have encountered pickled carrots and daikon before is on the Vietnamese sandwich Banh Mi. I did not have all the ingredients at home to make my own Banh Mi, but I thought because pickled carrots and daikon go great on Banh Mi, I would make my own deluxe sandwich featuring this relish on top. So there you have it, a nice little side dish of pickled carrots and daikon, or what the Cambodians call Jruak. Now, this is often eaten by itself, and it's often eaten as an accompaniment to other dishes. So you get like a little bowl of rice and maybe your stir fry, and then you use this as sort of a palate cleanser between bites of rice and stir fry. I was trying to figure out what I could serve it with, and I started making myself a gigantic sandwich, and I thought this would be perfect on my gigantic sandwich. So I put it on my gigantic sandwich this morning. So I'm going to try it by itself first. This had to sit overnight in the refrigerator just to allow some of the flavors. I think maybe an hour to 7 hours would be long enough, but I thought let's really get it going. So I let it sit overnight in the refrigerator, and now it's time to try it out. It's very good. It's very bright and fresh, which is one of the things that I love so much from a lot of Cambodian cooking, is their inclusion of raw vegetables. These here are pickled in a acidic, sweet brine. A wonderful pickling solution that brings out the natural flavors. And there's just a hint of heat from the Serrano peppers that I added. It's great. It's fantastic. I love it. And I thought because of that acidity and that flavor, it would make a wonderful sort of relish to put on top of this sandwich. So I'm gonna dig right in. This is just a deli meat sandwich with some cheese. Not really a traditional application for Jruak, but I think it'll pair together very well. If I can get my mouth around this thing. So the sandwich itself is very good. I'm not sure I got a good enough bite of the Jruak, so I gotta go in again. It was a big bite. I'm gonna need a minute. Yeah, I would say that that is the perfect accompaniment to any sandwich, any deli meat sandwich. I've even had something similar on a leftover meatloaf sandwich. Excellent. Not traditional, but still very good. So I'd strongly encourage you to make this yourself. You might learn a thing or two. And I'll catch you next time on Dr. Beck's Epicurean Delights. Going back in.